so we haven't covered Brylan Riggs in a little while, but he does have a video called "It's Finally Happening in America." I don't know what it is, but I guess I'm going to get informed really, really quick as I find out from his video what's finally happening in America. So let's go ahead and take a look here and see what we've got.
Name of, well,
buddy,
equity.
no, beginning of the video.
How terrifying this is. For the first time ever, those rules would give the federal government, I mean, just look at these sick and twisted people. This just happened the other day.
Okay. So we've got
if you
cold
want to
opens.
Support this channel, you can check out the link below.
No, we'll skip ahead.
Two, I am extremely sick, so please forgive me for the nasally voice. This man is named Brendan Carr. This is one of the commissioners on the FCC for the Federal Communications Commission. He just posted today, November 10th, a post on X or Twitter. Twitter.
It's okay to dead name Twitter.
President Biden has called on the FCC to issue a sweeping set of new regulations in the name of digital equity. For the first time ever, those rules would empower the administrative state to micromanage nearly every aspect of how the internet functions.
All right, so I do have a problem with this in the way that it's worded already. I do not want, the internet micromanaged by anybody. I grew up on the internet being a very open access platform. I grew up on, you could find anything here when anything's on here. It's here to stay for the most part. That's the internet I grew up with. That's the internet I want to stay with. But I'm curious if this is being misrepresented at all. I'm curious if this is being misrepresented. Let's continue the video, and then we might have to actually read this ourselves.
And then he says, I'm a no. I highly recommend you go and read the entire report. But I'm going to show you just a few snippets out of it. And then I'm going to show you why this is so concerning and show you the rest of the commissioners that are on the FCC.
All right, so the other commissioners on the FCC, I'm not super concerned about who else is on it. That seems to be just a way to poison that well. But I am curious which of these segments of Brylan's concern are most important. So he's editing the video. He's got the ability to curate which sections of the FCC report he is most alarmed by. So let's go ahead and see which sections are concerning him mostly.
And why this doesn't look good. Yeah, because coming up on Wednesday, the FCC is going to vote whether they should pass this insane overreach by the Biden administration. A lot of people aren't covering this. I don't understand why this isn't getting more attention than it is.
But I'm curious why we're 2 minutes into the video and you haven't started covering it. So what's happened here a couple times already is what's called poisoning the well. He's talking about how insane it is and how massive this is, and he hasn't actually gotten into any of what this is yet. I'm not saying that it's not a bad thing or it's not something that we need to be talking about, but unless you're going to tell me what you're concerned about in the video, let's just save the alarmism for after we've heard the actual words, right?
Basically, please talk about this. Share this story with everybody that you know. We can't allow this to happen. Hey, would you consider hitting that thumbs up button, when you like this video?
Oh my God. No, just get to the part.
This current administration wants to own the internet and everything about it. And they're doing it all in the name of digital equity. That's why everyone is so insane.
Okay.
And all.
What does that mean? What does that mean, to own the internet? Congress never contemplated the sweeping regulatory regime that President Biden asked the FCC to adopt, let alone authorized anyone to implement it. Nonetheless, the commission will vote next week to put President Biden's plan in place. A draft of the FCC is implementing Biden's plan, which is available here. I oppose the plan for several reasons. They plan to hand the administration effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the community. Well, hold on. That's different. So, controlling the internet and controlling internet services are two different things. Internet services are things like your ISP, things like, Cox Digital Cable, AT&T, Verizon. Those are internet service providers. If the government is trying to take control of internet service providers, then it would be on the grounds that the internet is not a luxury that should be privatized. It is something that everybody needs access to basically 24/7 now, because that's just how the world is. That's not the same thing as controlling the internet. I mean, I'm looking at the report that you have on screen right there, but continue.
Our society today, because they've infiltrated every company, every school.
What does this bitch have to do with the video? What is
every piece of entertainment?
What did she have to do with the video? Why did that matter? Again, instead of talking about the topic, we have the dude going, they've infiltrated everything. They've done this. They've done that. No, look. It's an edited video, right? I'm doing my stuff live. So if it takes me a while to get to something, then y'all understand it's because I'm doing other things while live on my channel. That's just kind of how this works. But what this guy is doing is he is adding a ton of well poisoning, adding a ton of belligerent yelling and screaming and pandering, because he's got an audience he wants to entertain. The people who are here watching this, who are not here to critique it, who are not here to be critical about it, they're here, just to watch the content and consume it. They probably don't care what form the content takes. They just care that it's entertaining. So splicing in a bunch of the dumb memes, it makes sense. But adding all of this to, like Sakura just said, an already poisoned well, seems kind of iffy to me.
I want you to meet my brother Dave, his husband.
Why do we have Sesame Street?
Slow seeping indoctrination in it.
Hi kids. There's no such thing as a boy or a girl.
It is you either bow to our...
That's just a random TikToker. Who gives a shit about the random TikToker? What does the random TikToker have to do with the FCC? What does the random TikToker have to do with the Biden administration? What did the Sesame Street clip have to do with anything? Now, I understand what he's trying to do is show examples, kind of haphazardly, of the ways in which the system is broken and it's corrupted and so on and so forth. That's what he's trying to do here. But I'm not getting that. What I'm getting is the government doesn't control Sesame Street, so they don't matter here. The government doesn't control a random fucking TikToker, so they don't matter in terms of this conversation. I have not yet gotten to a point where I think I've listened to anything of any substance at all.
Agenda or suffer the consequences. Democrats have been in charge of the SEC and administrative agencies in DC for approaching 12 out of the last 16 years. They have had the opportunity over the stretch of time to put in place nearly any federal telecom policy of their choosing. In fact, the federal government has allocated hundreds of billions of taxpayer dollars for the purpose of ending the digital divide, while Democrats have run the administrative state. After all of that time and after all of that spending, the Biden administration has concluded that Democratic policies are not working. Gee, you think? I agree with President Biden on this.
Wait, hold on. Is this guy going to actually conflate the term democratic, which is to say policies based on vote, and Democrat? Is Is that what he's about to do? Please don't tell me that's what he's about to do.
This point. So do I. Who'da thunk? And then skipping forward a little bit, but the Biden administration is taking away all the wrong lessons from its failed broadband policies. Rather than righting the ship, the Biden administration is going hard left. Who'da thunk? All in the name of digital equity. Check out how terrifying.
Do you want to define any of those words?
For the first time ever, those rules would give the federal government a roving mandate to micromanage nearly every aspect of how the internet functions. And don't forget, this isn't just the internet they want control over. They want control over literally families, over how you raise your children.
What the fuck do any of those words mean? And why instead of... you have a 10-minute video. You know what this reeks to me of? This reeks to me of padding. Instead of going in depth into the document, which is what you could be doing in a video like this, instead you are padding it out with a shit ton of alarmism. Not one word from the document has really been stated. No opinion of yours has been colored by the document thus far. All you have is, the government want to control everything. That bad for reason I will alarm about here.
Remember when
you pad more than a fucking low-aged little.
Biden said this?
Rebecca put a teacher's creed into words when she said, "There's no such thing as someone else's child. No such thing as someone else's child. Our nation's children are all our children."
They want you to believe that you're not the parent of your child, that your child...
That's not what he said there, you moron. None of what he said there is that's not your child. He basically just said, it takes a village. That's all he said in that statement. The equivalent of it takes a village to raise a kid, which anybody who's raised a kid can probably tell you is 100% true. Because when you're raising your kid, it's not just you. It's your the teachers that are raising your kid. It's the other parents who are involved, parents of other people's kids. It's your grandparents. It's your parents. It's your brothers and sisters, your kids' aunts and uncles. They are all taking part in raising that kid. Jesus Christ.
Child belongs to the state, belongs to them. But remember, they hate your child. They hate your child, in fact, so much that they're willing to allow your child to mutilate their own bodies.
Why did you have to censor that? So we moved away from talking about the internet to you being transphobic. So nobody who actually talks about trans issues, nobody who's actually educated on trans issues, wants kids to cut up their bodies. Nobody. Not a single goddamn one. But okay. Instead of talking about any actual issues here, we just have alarming about the ways in which the government is controlling everything. We are halfway through the video, and he hasn't talked about the FCC regulations that his video is about.
All in the name of, well, equity. I mean, just look at these sick and twisted people. This just happened the other day.
Wait, did we just... Did you just go to a new topic? Did you just ADHD to a whole fucking new topic? And not actually, and you didn't... You never actually talked about the FCC regulations? Did you unironically start your video lamenting Jamie Femboy says, fuck this liberal cuck. Who are you talking about? Did you just start your entire video lamenting that people weren't talking about the FCC regulations and they needed to talk about them more, and it would be so important for people to talk about this, and you waxed lyrical about that for a solid goddamn minute instead of actually talking about it, and then 5 minutes into your video, instead of talking about the FCC regulations, you alarmed about how the government controlling you is bad, and then you moved on to the next thing. Also, who's the lib here? This guy's not a liberal. This is a conservative. Very, very obviously. Jesus Christ.
votes to approve constitutional right to abhorrent. You're seeing this absolute sick narrative that it doesn't matter whether it's actually a life in the womb. We just want to slaughter it. And you're seeing this insane LGB indoctrination in everything. Literally, if you don't submit and give in and think the way that they want you to think, then you're going to pay the price. You're going to face the consequences.
Okay, is if he identifies as liberal, he is one of my book. I don't... What? Okay, you're saying as many dumb words as he's saying now. Anywho, instead of fighting with people who can't string together full sentences in my chat, I need to ask a question. Not only why are we not talking about the FCC regulations that I thought we were going to be talking about, but when you say these people don't want to, these people don't want you to think the way you want to think, they want you to think the way they want to think. There are some things where I think it's okay for me to want you to think differently on. Let's say you want me to die and I want to live. I am invested in wanting you to think the way I think. Because if you think the way you think, you might fucking kill me. But if you think the way I think, you know, my life having value, then maybe, just maybe, I might survive the encounter. So, I'm very, very, very curious. How many times have you in chat, or y'all in the comment section, how many times have you heard somebody use this kind of rhetoric? This type of rhetoric where they go, they want to control how you think, but they never, ever, ever spend any amount of time articulating what the specific things that they disagree with are. What things they want you to think differently about. So let's stay on the topic that he brought up, LGBTQ issues. Do I want people to think the same way as I do on LGBTQ issues? Well, yes, I do. I think it's okay to not want trans people to be genocide. I think it's okay for people to, you know, want gay people to be able to be married. I think it's okay for you to think that gay and trans people deserve all the same human rights as you have. And if there are rights that they need, that are required for them to survive, then those should be granted as well. We're talking about things like, you know, access to HRT. So, yes, I actually do, unironically, want to change people's minds on these things. It's why I have my channel. So if somebody's like, you want to make people think like you. Yeah, no fucking duh. So do you. Everybody wants everybody else to think a little more like them. Everybody does. Everybody wants that. It is a vague nothing post to say, you just want people to think like you. No. Yeah, maybe. Who cares? You want people to think like you. I want people to think like me. That is how the majority of human beings are. We want the people around us to think more like us because the fact that we think that way means that we think that that thing that we think is more important or more stable or works better for us or would work better for the world. That is an opinion that most people have, unless they are so thoroughly nihilistic while also being introspective enough to understand that nihilism is stupid.
And that's exactly what they're doing with this. The only reason they want this kind of power over the internet isn't so that everybody can have equal access to the internet. No, it has nothing to do with that. What it does have to do with is if you say anything about LGB or about the right to life, then, well, you're going to suffer.
So where is that opinion stated in the FCC regulations? Where is that stated? If you truly believe that, then there should be somewhere in here, in the FCC regulations, where that power is granted. Because power of internet service provider is not automatically power to control what you do on, Twitter.com. So far, it seems like you're just Alex Jonesing here.
Consequences. And one way they're able to do
He's
that
also really
is
trying
by,
to avoid saying trans.
cutting your internet, slowing your speeds. Oh, suddenly just your house has a blackout. Oh, coinkydink? Or maybe your bill, well, it's astronomical now, and you can't afford to have internet at all. There's all kinds of ways.
You mean, those are all things that ISPs already can do. Like, those are already things ISPs can do right now. What? Those are things internet service providers already have the power to do. They can cut your access to the internet. They can throttle your access to the internet. They can do these things already without any assistance from another entity. You're terrified of a world you already live in. This is like the people who are reading 1984 and going, "Oh my God, what if it happens here?" Not realizing that George Orwell wrote that novel literally just with all of the tech and ability of the world that he was already living in. Like, people freak out about stuff that is already happening, not realizing that they've become so numb to it. The only thing that makes them remember that it's there is somebody fucking told them.
That the current regime is going to make sure that you pay the price for not submitting to the new depraved state of mind. And I don't want to sound all conspiracy theorist here.
Yes, you do. You want to sound like your tinfoil hat is screwed on nice and tight. It is what your audience expects. It is what they want. It is what you're going for. Do not lie.
But the facts are right in front of your face. One of the actual commissioners of the FCC is saying, hey, this is really bad, you guys. They are going to take control of the internet in its entirety. And you're going to...
Again, what does that mean? What does control of the internet mean? Because the way you worded it in the beginning, we weren't talking about control of the internet. We were talking about internet service providing. So, government-controlled ISPs. The same way that you could have government-controlled power or anything like that. These types of people freak the hell out. And granted, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe if we actually had any information from the FCC document on here, maybe my opinion could be colored a little bit differently. But in my opinion, these types of people hear government control of and immediately start just pissing shit. They freak out about the idea of a government having control of anything because in their mind, the government controlling anything automatically makes it bad and scary and awful and terrible and the end of the world. Meanwhile, in countries with government-controlled healthcare, people can actually get seen for shit. But, it's okay. It's okay.
Going to pay the price. And a lot of people still want to brush it off as like, oh, it's just a conspiracy theory. One more little snippet here. It says, President Biden's plan hands the administrative state effective control of all internet services and infrastructure in the country. Never before.
So not control of the internet, but control of internet infrastructure. So a way to prevent people from, paying for fast lanes on the net. Like, again, unless you have a working definition of what those words mean, that's it. At the moment right now, ISPs have control over that. Cox Digital Cable has control over that. AT&T has control over that. Comcast has control over that. As of right now, those businesses can basically say that places like, say, rural America don't get decent internet access. There are plenty of places in, say, Ranger, Georgia, that simply cannot get internet access in any way, shape, and form outside of Usenet. They can't get anything that is not super throttled and super awful. Government controlled, there might be a little more, equity there. Ha, funny word. Razor says if their beloved leader was suggesting it, they would be all for it. Yeah, can you imagine if Trump had suggested this? I'm curious what the response would be if Trump had suggested, like, for instance, I believe that the United States taxpayer does not get enough for the money they put in. I believe that the taxpayer of the United States is getting a raw deal. Therefore, effective immediately, everyone who is a tax-paying United States red-blooded citizen will be receiving for free internet service for life for being an American citizen. That right there, wording it that way, what changes? Like, how does the language change? I'm not doing anything different. That is still effectively the government having control over internet service providing. That is the government having control over that, top to bottom. But I've worded it in the cadence of the Cheeto-in-Chief. And suddenly it sounds like a good sales pitch to the American people. Weird how that works. I'm going to play a little bit more of the video, see if maybe he gets to anything.
Roughly 40-year history of the public internet. Has the FCC, or any federal agency for that matter, claimed this degree of control over it? So again, this says that this is going to be voted on November 15th. But you have one of the commissioners for the FCC telling you that everything that you just heard, the government is going to take control over. And that's not even an exhaustive list. They are going to literally own the entirety of the internet if we just sit back and let it happen. And nobody...
Okay, so what is your plan to make that not happen? They're voting on it. Like, these types of people also pretend that they can empower their audiences to do anything about this.
Seems to care. And it's interesting when you look at the commissioners on the FCC right now, you can see this isn't promising. 3 Democrats, 2 Republicans. Now, one of those Democrats was appointed by Obama, another one by Biden, and then another Democrat, well, was appointed by Trump. So we don't know how this is going to...
Hey, so wait a minute. Did you just go, it's mostly an even split? 2 Democrats appointed by Democrats, 2 Republicans appointed by Republicans. Tastes like chicken. Thank you for the follow. And then 1 Democrat appointed by Trump. These are the types of people who don't act like, instead of reading anything, he's just looking at the colors of people attached to it and deciding that it's bad because of that. It's funny.
Turn out, but one thing you have to realize is that our political system is so extreme today that if both sides are guilty in a lot of ways, but especially this Marxist regime on the left. If you don't...
What Marxist regime? Where is the communism? Republicans keep freaking out about the communism everywhere. I have yet to see the communism. Is the communism in the fucking room with us right now?
Go along, then you will suffer the consequences. You know, there's actually Democrats that think a lot of these policies are insane, but they just go along with even the insanity because they've given themselves over to depravity. They're no longer able to stand.
Oh my God, this fucking religious stupid speak. And that's what I'm gonna call it. And if you're religious in my audience and you don't believe this is, religious stupid speak, then you need to unclog your ears. You need to take another listen to this and recognize what's happening. This is somebody who is using the language of his religion to signal to his audience. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, when he's saying given over to depravity over and over again, he's talking about the same thing the Bible talks about, where, God gives people over to depravity. That's what he's doing. It's a way to color people as irredeemable, as forsaken by God. These Democrats, they could have been good people. But they were forsaken by God. Guess they're fucked.
And on anything but following along behind the evil because they don't want to lose their position. They want to continue to have all the glorious benefits of working in our political system, which it never was supposed to be that way. You didn't become a politician to get rich and live this high and mighty lifestyle, but we've allowed our government to become so bloated. But the Bible tells us that none of this is...
Okay, so it's not that the government is bloated. That's not what's happened here, you absolute troglodyte. The government being bloated is the thing that Republicans will point to all the time when they want to say, look, we need to get smaller government. And yet the Republicans never actually push for smaller government. They always push for more government. They always push for more control over people's lives, while also saying they're the party of small government. It's a really weird dichotomy. But the issue is not the amount of offices that exist in the government, because that's what you're talking about with bloating. The issue is that money and lobbying and, I mean, just literal, the ability to do insider trading, all of this shit is allowable for government officials. The fact that you can get rich off of working in the government, because you're not just getting your government salary, which is massive, might I add. Did you know that Marjorie Taylor Greene makes a 6-figure salary? Did you know that if she works long enough, she's guaranteed that for life? Did you know that? Does that upset you? That you can just do nothing in Congress and be a raging anti-Semite and make enough money to support your entire family doing that? God, that's bullshit, isn't it? God, that's awful. People get angry at career politicians. I don't think being a career politician is a bad thing. I just don't think that being a politician should be as lucrative as it is. Because again, it's never just the money from the position. The money from the position alone is substantial. But the connections that you make in those offices end up leading to people to become obscenely wealthy, especially through fucking lobbies. Sticky says they also get healthcare on our dime too. And I have some awful words to say, but I'm not going to say them right now. Sticky says time for a tax strike. That literally will not do anything. Also, your taxes fund schools. Also, your taxes fund roads. Also, your taxes fund Medicare. Also. There are other things your taxes fund. You doing a tax strike, one, isn't going to accomplish anything. Two, ends up hurting a lot more people than the handful of politicians you're trying to hit. Vote those fuckers out of office.
Coming just from mean people. Ephesians chapter 6 says, "For we do not wrestle..."
Oh no, we're just getting into the religiosity now. We're past the point of any actual points being made. We are past the point of any points actually being made now. We're just into the religious nothing speak. Cool. Well, now that I know that we're into the religious nothing speak, I have no more reason to give any crap about anything else he's saying. Because now that we're here, what I know is that he's just going to start telling you, despite the fact that in my 10-minute video, I argued against nothing, argued about nothing, and just called the Democrats depraved. The Bible says that you should subscribe to my channel and hit the like button. That's basically what he's going to say. Alpha Mario says, I believe if politicians are backed by corporations, they should wear their logo on their suits like how racers wear their sponsors. Agreed. Agreed. When are we going to get a politician sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends? AOC streams, right? Man, can you imagine the kerfuffle if on AOC's Twitch stream, she took a sponsorship for Raid Shadow Legends? Can you imagine that? Can you imagine the headlines from that? God, it would be hilarious. Anywho, that I wish there was more substance in that video to talk about. I wish there was. If you have the time and the wherewithal to read the new FCC regulations that were voted on a few days ago, let me know in the comment section below. I want to know y'all's opinions. You know, when people are actually going and getting those opinions as opposed to going, they're going to have control over everything, vague post. It's bad, vague post. It's bad because look at this meme of a liberal person, NB, he, him person, Look at them. Don't they make you angry? Aren't you part of my audience, and therefore you are angry when you see liberal? Doesn't that make you mad? Isn't that some? Don't you want to own the libs? If you want to own libs, then Biden bad. Remember that, kids. Trump 2024 from his jail cell, as the good Lord intended. Break bread with a Nazi today. Said AOC streams what? She streamed Among Us. Your democracy sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends. Hit the like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you haven't already. As always, everyone, insert end the video tagline here. You thought the video was over, but the fan art never actually ends. This first piece of fan art is from Lore, said this is how I assume Suris feels when the timer on the subathon is at 5 minutes after like 2 weeks of streaming. Just hope that it's finally over, but Razor put 5 hours on the clock again. Jesus. The next one we have here is from Matthias, Kako Slime Demon, for your pleasure. Hope people have their BFG 9000s ready for this. And finally, we have one from Bondo. Said, made with Stable Diffusion, Suris has secured a name brand bag. Apparently, a Suris brand bag is a thing. Also, those tits are ginormous. Also, those are Night Elf hands. They are also ginormous. Holy shit. As always, everybody, thank you all for your fan art submissions. If you want your fan art to be shown in a future video, the best way to do so is to drop it in the fan art section of the Discord. With that said, let's move on to the credits. Hey, I just quickly want to give a thank you to all of my wonderful patrons who keep this show running. YouTube and Twitch are a pretty bumpy ride at the best of times, and the stability a Patreon provides me is worth more than I can say here. I'd also like to thank each and every one of my $20 and up patrons here, and they would be Britzkrieg, Cameron, Dren, Jemshin, Smiling DM, Poundini, Mabbity Babbity, Naomi, Isaac, Agamotto, Jordan, Ravi, Giuni, Kiratorian, Prisma, all of you, I'm not saying that part, and Starlight. And finally, thank you to everyone else that helps keep this channel alive. While you're here, why not check out another video? And thank you for watching.